demonic angel, last video of the night. Question that I was asked, do ghosts really rise from their graves and wander the cemetery at night? Good question. So, yes, they do. We'll go over the reasons why I think what I think here then. So, ghosts are actually in the ground, and they're being purified slowly, not just in body but in spirit. But this is a process that takes time, the element of time. And while that is happening, they, for various reasons, rise from their graves. The things that are, basically it's like having a mind except you don't have a body. So what's weighing heavy on their minds will basically make them rise during things like full moons. During full moons, there's a lot more electricity in the air. So I think it's just the general electricity in the air. They feel less of a pull from the grounding, cleansing force of the earth, and their heavy thoughts bring them out of the ground so that they wander around. They can do this during the day, and it does depend on different circumstances. It depends on like what the environment around is like. Wrought iron fence, that kind of stuff will keep them in the gates. So that is true in my experience from what I've seen. I even remember, do you remember being a ghost myself? And just the experience of still being attached to my body, but being in the ground. So it's like, it just is dark. But it was very important that I had a grave slab, so I didn't come out of the ground. I just wanted to have that process be not interrupted, the purification process. In a broad generalization, many spirits will wander the cemetery or nearby area and think about their lives or repeat their death, whatever experience they're having, and then they return to the cemetery, sometimes right before daybreak, and then they, basically sleep. So it's kind of like a dream state, because a lot of things like that I really see the differences in sleep and death, like as popularized by ancient Greeks and even Christians, that when we sleep, we dream, we heal, just like the dead do. So it is like that. There's a dreamlike quality. So it's like they're going back to bed. And usually, no matter what, they eventually feel like a pull to go back to their bodies and go back to sleep. Is the way that I can really best explain it, like my best analogy here. So, they might, let's say they find a person to hang around for a little bit and get their energy or their company. For them, it's not going to feel like it's not going to feel like themselves. So they'll have that little experience exchange, and then they go back. And they know exactly where their bodies are, just the way that birds migrate. Same life force principle, because Mother Earth wants to purify everyone. And so they go back, into the ground. And those are when it's not a full moon or near the full moon, the pulling, grounding force of Earth usually just keeps them in the ground. But like when you visit cemeteries, if you're around their grave and a spirit is still there, the person's ego, there's still that easy kind of communication in a way. But essentially, I do like to, in my way, I even announce to spirits that I have good intentions and please go back to sleep or stay asleep if that's what you're doing, because I don't want to disturb those who are just sleeping. They're dreaming. One final note is that things like grave offerings basically offer that sustenance for those times when the deceased rises from the grave. They don't have to go very far for sustenance, and it's just it's a very peaceful experience for them. It's kind of like having a snack, not going back to bed. So it is like with food, the idea is that the spirits are eating, they're consuming the energy that you've put into that, the life force of that you've given that object you give it meaning, and that is what they are able to eat. I mean, they're just energy that feeds off other energy. So just things like that can kind of, I think help them. But they do rise from their grave and go back to their bodies. And it really, to me, I mean, that's what it really looks like. It's like they are just going back. And then it's just, the real experience for them, usually, it could be cold or kind of dark or even hot, because the molten core of Earth is hot. So they experience this whole cleansing as hot because, it's purifying. No one's in hell or suffering forever like that. Mother Earth and Father Time heal everyone. Eventually.